What is up, my Shadowverse soldiers, and welcome to the first episode of the podcast. Thank you for tuning in. I am Sparta, your host. If you have not heard of me before, I am Sparta from Sparta's Evil. I love doing Shadowverse Evolve content. I am a card gamer, and I absolutely love Shadowverse Evolve. That's why I'm doing this stuff. But in the first episode, I just wanted to give some insight on what we're going to be doing. So, in this series that I'm now concocting I had a little bit of trouble coming up with the name, but I'm glad I got everything a little organized now that I'm able to do this because I wanted to do this all the way in July of last year. But, now that it's a new year, I think it's a good time to go ahead and just hit the ground running with it and just to go ahead and just move on with it. All right, so the first thing I wanted to talk about was how we're going to break down and when you should expect these episodes. And if it's a little late, it's okay. I'm sorry. Life does happen. But you should expect these episodes usually by the end of the next set. If a whole bunch of events happens where there's a whole bunch of stuff going on with certain sets, like let's say we have set 7, and in set 7 we had a whole bunch of grand showdowns, different BCSs and everything like that. We're not going to cover every single event, but we're going to cover most of the bigger events or one of the bigger ones from the most recent times, which is what we'll be doing in this podcast, of course. But that's how we're going to be breaking things down, all the news that we got. So we will be covering the Winter Conference in this episode as well. So getting into the first topic, so we have Grand Showdown Singapore. So if anyone has paid attention, December 21st was when Singapore happened. And we do have some insights of the recap. I do want to go over the recap here, which we will be doing. But Singapore was a very big event. It really solidified the last bit of the big competitive scene, or the big humongous competitive scene for set 7. And the next Grand Showdown we should be in, I think we should be in set 8 by then. If not set 8, then 100% set 9. But I think it's 100% set 8. Just thinking off the top of my head without looking at it. But let's go ahead and get into the recap of it. So looking at all the decks that performed, of course, we know that Swordcraft took the crown and everything, and there was a huge percentage of Swordcraft. But one thing I do like to see personally is none of the other decks being at 0. We got Uma being at 1% and Idolmaster being at 1%. So people are bringing those decks. So it's not like those decks are straight trash. There's, people that might have had some success with it, or, are just brave enough to bring those decks. And I'm glad that, those decks have representation. Now, speaking of representation, my insight, I thought Mono was going to win. But it looks like the consistency of Natura Sword was very strong. Shout out to DJ for winning the whole event. Unfortunately, was unable to stream the event, but I hope in the future for the next Grand Showdown, I'll be able to stream it. Which, mark in the calendars, we will have that. What's the date for Sovereign? We have March 22nd. All right, March 22nd for Grand Showdown Sovereign. So I will be streaming that. Also, make sure you pay attention to the actual official stream too on YouTube and Twitch that they will be having. But I'm excited to see what decks are going to be played at that Grand Showdown. But getting back into Singapore, DJ won the whole thing with Natura Sword, and this is one of the decks I didn't think was. Looking at Dexander, I knew the deck was on the list. It was up there, but I didn't think it was going to win the thing. I honestly thought Mono was going to be up there since it was the most popular, but most popular does not mean most consistent. And that's the one thing I think Mono had a problem with, was the consistency of the deck. Now, Mono swings hard, fast, and that's how Shadowverse Evolve English has seemed to run in the meta. If the deck runs really fast, can hit very hard, then it's it's up there in terms of meta for English. That's why Fairy Forest is as prominent as it is. Sometimes the hands can be kind of glass cannony, but I think, hitting fast and hard is kind of how, just the meta is. It's a little scary, being a new player coming into that, but, it seems with Natura Sword, the meta slowed down because, Technolord and Viridia Magna or 4+ cost cards that you have to play in terms of either removal or other effects. So, seeing those cards being printed and, those cards in the meta, then, the meta slowed down a little bit, which is something I appreciated. They went for consistency over, aggression, and I will 100% take that any day over anything else. But honestly, I think Singapore looked a little fun. I probably wouldn't personally go to any of these Grand Showdowns unless they're really cool. But I think, the event had to have been fun. Is that a Robo Zombie? Oh, that's a Robo Zombie. Okay. I wonder. All right. Um, but congratulations to everybody that went and performed and everything like that. I know the event had to be like lots of fun. Like look at all those beautiful faces. Congratulations, guys. But enough of Singapore. This March 22nd is when Grand Showdown Sovereign's going to happen, so make sure you mark your calendars for that. I'm very excited to see what decks are going to be played because I'm pretty sure we're going to be in set 8 when that happens. So seeing all the decks in set 8 is going to be pretty fun. But let's go ahead and move on into the winter conference. So we did have the winter conference that happened. Let me back up. All right, so Grand Showdown. I'm not sure if it's Grand Showdown or for Worlds, but we are going to have upcoming entry, and that's going to be very, very fun. So Grand Showdown is now going to happen for 4 times a year. It's in all regions, and the upcoming entry is $40. So let me talk about that. I personally, for me, I will pay for an event as long as I get something worth. Now, getting into a free event and then only getting a promo pack is I don't think it's worth. So, let's say let's say there's a event in like New York and I live in like Texas or like Louisiana. So, I'm not driving to there. And I know it's out of my own expenses if I'm going to go, but I feel like if I'm going to go to this event, which I want to support this game, I want to love it, of course, just as much as anybody else, then I want to make sure where I'm going and what I'm doing is worth. So I either need to like really try hard and go full force into the meta, and then doing that, if I go full force into the meta, I want to make sure I do well. Like I want to do well, and there's always that RNG where I didn't draw the card, or I just misplayed, and that happens. That happens. But I don't want to go and scrub out and then get completely nothing. I would 100% don't mind paying $40 for like a Grand Showdown level or even BCS level tournament to get like a storage box playmat and a promo. I would not mind paying for that just because, I'm already paying X amount of money for my ticket to get out there, X amount of money to find somewhere to stay. And then, I would definitely don't mind paying X amount of money to playing in a tournament to get some, Bushy Road level like gear. I don't mind it at all. But yeah, I don't know if that's for just Worlds this year or if it's for Grand Showdown, the upcoming prizing or the upcoming participant entry fee, which I wouldn't mind as a local level kind of guy. I don't want to say local level, but like ground level kind of guy player to play in these events. But moving on, let's go ahead and get into the winter conference. So there were a lot of reveals in the winter conference. So I watched the video just like everybody else did, and pretty good presentation for Shadowverse Evolve at least, because that's the only one I'm going to be covering as a Shadowverse Evolve. But I know for the other games it had to be pretty cool. But as far as Shadowverse Evolve, the first thing I want to talk about is Set 9. So Set 9 is slowly approaching. Of course, we have to get through Set 8 and everything, but April 11th is when Set 9 is going to be out. But with every little box of Set 9, you will have the option to vote. So, one thing coming from Dragon Ball Super is that we didn't really have a voice. And seeing that they're trying to give players of ground level, I want to say ground level, so us having a voice matters. So, whenever they give us the option to speak, then I want everyone to scream, honestly, because they, as easily as they can say, hey, let us know your opinions, or let us vote, I'd say vote. And if you don't, then they will quickly take it away. If Lex giveth and Lex taketh, so like it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, I finally have the option to have some voice and some opinion in certain matters. I know it's only going to be for a special card, but if they get X amount of input from us, then that might reach a quota or something, or they might definitely do it again. So as long as you guys are able to reach out with your voice and just make sure you vote, just make sure you do this. That's all I can say. Please vote, because if you don't vote and we don't get any good results, then uh-uh. It's not going to be good when we really want to be heard and we're not heard at all. I know how that goes. But outside of that, it seems like set 9 is going to be very interactive. I like how they're structuring the, vote for an English edition card to get like a little special card, which is going to be very exciting. I don't know if it's going to be a promo or whatnot. I'm looking forward to the details as we get closer to set 9. All right, so getting into the next thing. So before we get into set 10, I do want to talk about the sealed format that they were talking about. So I personally have never played Open 8 yet. And I think with Open 8, well, the sealed format, think about it like this could be a side event. And if you're good at building decks, I think this might be a format to look into. So I don't know anyone who makes like specific like Open 8 videos, or what cards to look for in Open 8. But I think if they make videos like this, then definitely like going into a format like, hey, going into set 8, look out for this. This pairs up with that. I think those would be very interesting like content, or like interesting videos to look at in the future, especially if you're going to be doing a sealed format like in a side event, or if it sometimes, in the future might be a main event, something like that. But I think there's still a little confusion on my end for sure for sealed format, because I don't know if it's going to be just straight for like maybe pre-release, or is this something that we're going to see at like a BCS and this is a side event that we can do like Glory Finder. And don't get me started on Glory Finder, because I could sit here and talk up and down on why like Glory Finder, I don't want to say Glory Finder is a mess, but it's just too much. I think it's just too much. The thing about Glory Finder being too much is that like they wanted some sort of commander format for Shadowverse Evolve, which is nice. Multiplayer format is pretty cool, but if you're going to give us like Glory Finder cards, I feel like we need to have like expansions like every now and then, because like we have set 8 coming out, and I think the last time we got Glory Finder, just straight up Glory Finder cards, was set 4. That's with a question mark. I know it's been quite some time since we got Glory Finder specific cards, but I think every now and then we should get like Glory Finder specific like expansions every now and then if we're going to really upvote the format. But I think the format's kind of a wash. That's my personal thing. I wouldn't invest into it, because like just thinking of a deck is just like, whoa, like I have my leader. I can rock any sort of like crafts that I want, which is probably, I will get into crosscraft in a second, but it's just a lot. It's just a lot, and with how much we don't draw, like we don't draw that much in Shadowverse Evolve. So there are cards that do like let you look through your deck and stuff like that, but I'm like comparing things to like Magic's been out for a while, but you have the option to draw a lot in Magic. Like there's a card that lets you draw a lot, and there's not really cards like that in Shadowverse Evolve yet that lets you draw like that. Unless you're talking about the new card that we're about to get in Runecraft in set 8, but that's besides the point. All right, but getting back into sealed format, I just don't want it to be anything like Glory Finder. Like I know it's going to be a little more compact since with a 30 card deck, and it's going to be in between 8 or 12 packs. But I'm just not sure in terms of, is this going to be something that's going to be locals level like pre-release, or is this going to be a straight up format where this is something I scrub out in the main event and I can go in the sealed format because like I'm good at deck building and I want to try my luck. And I'm hoping it's in the second option of light, because I think that would be pretty fun. Now, I did say I was going to talk about Crosscraft. Okay, so I personally didn't think I was going to talk about Crosscraft, because just like Glory Finder, I think that sort of format is going to be a headache too, because there's going to be a deck that rules. I feel like I'm gonna call it now. I don't think Crosscraft is officially a thing yet, but I'm gonna say now. There's going to be 3 decks that's going to rule. There are going to be two main crafts, I think. And here's what I'm. If you're going to be playing Control, you're going to be playing Rune, and you're going to be playing Abyss, and you're going to be playing the best either control cards, or you're going to be playing either. I'm going to guess either some sort of sword or something else low to the ground, maybe even Abyss. And you're going to play low to the ground, and then you're going to Stormface. And then the third one, I can't think of an outlier, but it's going to be something pretty interesting. I think that's what it's going to come down to. If you're going to be doing crosscraft, you either need to play either the fastest deck or you need to be playing the best controlly deck. And when playing those two things, having the play points and everything with the different crafts, I think it's going to be interesting coming up with different concoctions for it. But at the same time, looking at all the crafts that we have, that is indeed a headache trying to mix two together. But I think Abyss and Rune just kind of go so well together just because Necrocharge 10 and Spellchain 10. That's just my number one thing. But I could be wrong. But that's what I really have to say about Crosscraft. But getting into the next thing, let's talk about Set 10. So Set 10 comes out in June 20th. And just a disclaimer, every time we do a little bit of the episode of the podcast, we're not going to talk about every set that's going to come out in the future. But we do want to talk about what's happening in the conference. So we have Set 10, the Set 10 reveal, and we're going to have Tarot-inspired cards, which is pretty interesting because I'm not really a huge Tarot reader. So, getting some more insight in terms of that will be pretty fun. But outside of that, I do want to say that we are getting a new kind of like mechanic that's coming in Set 10, and that's called Advance. So if you don't pay attention to the translation card list on the website, then you should know you should not know that Advanced is a way for your evolve cards to go into your EX area and for you to play them again. As that's why you can see the little evolve at the top, and then you can see a number. So as far as what these cards do, of course, we will know once we do these reveals because I'm not going to let you guys know yet. But if you do want to know, go ahead and check out the translation page that those people work very hard on. And I appreciate every single one of them because without them, I wouldn't have any reveal videos for all of you to make. All right, but outside of Set 10, excuse me, let's talk about Bushiroad Summerfest. So Summerfest is something I didn't expect was going to happen this year. So usually most of the time I hear people talking about Springfest, and last year Springfest was like my first time doing content creation on Shadowverse Evolve, and I had been hearing, that they were Springfest 2023, 2022, and like it was always a thing. Now it's in summer. So I don't know what's going to happen with that. I know, it'll be pretty fun seeing everybody during the summer. That's where sometimes people might have more time off during the summer. It's gonna be a beautiful year of promos. And speaking of Bushiroad Summerfest promos, the participation prizes is pretty interesting. So we have some puppet cards, a whole bunch of cards from Set 8. I think the Abyss and Rune are from a different art. I'm not sure. As far as everything else, I think I'm very excited to see what these promos are going to have. I just hope that my number one wish for the Summerfest here is that we have more localized on the east side. I think we had like maybe one tournament that was on the East Coast, and that was like a struggle for Dragon Ball Super Masters, was that we didn't have any events on the East Coast. We did, but like they were just like maybe one or two. But hopefully that's my wish list, is that we get some more events in the East Coast, because it'll be just more localized for me, and I'll be able to pop out and make content for it, see more people and stuff like that. It's just my wish list. But I think the hot stamps look pretty nice. I'm very excited to see what deck is going to be dominating the 3-player format. And lastly, I want to show off the champion prize winner stamp, Kagemitsu. So if anybody's going to be rocking Kagemitsu in the future, I think this is the old one. The Kagemitsu hot stamp actually looks pretty goated, not gonna lie to you. So if you're looking forward to Summerfest, let me know what you might be taking. Well, you probably don't want to disclose that to your future enemies or your future fighters and whatnot. But if you're excited for Summerfest, I'm excited for it too. I'm hoping another wish list as I'm thinking about it. Another thing that I want them to do is to see if they can either like stream like Summerfest or something like that. Just give us something that's not an article, like maybe some like live feed. That's another wish list that I want for Summerfest. That'd be pretty cool. But I think that was about everything. I didn't mean to fly through the topics so fast. I just get to yapping, and there's usually never a set speed that I have things for. And I'm sorry. I tried my best to keep it as sound structure as possible. But was there anything else? I'm trying to see if there was anything else in my notes that I had to take care of. Oh yeah, the forecast. Okay, so one thing before we get out of here, I wanted to talk about the forecast of the decks. Okay, so let's get back over here. All right, so the projected disclaimer. All right, for disclaimer for anyone watching that is on Dexander a lot, or if you are watching and you aren't on Dexander a lot, I say check out. I said, excuse me. If you are on Dexander a lot, then you already know that these decks are not built up to scale into what the actual metal will look like. If you aren't on this website a lot, then you should know that these are just the parameters, but this is not exactly what it's going to look like, especially for how it was in set 3. Let me go back here, because in set 3, I think I was expecting Beauty and the Beast Forest to be good, and that was definitely wrong. But people were playing Uma. A lot of people were playing Uma, but most of the decks that were topping was heroic. Everybody was playing heroic because it was just so fast. So I'm still kind of waking up in a cold sweat from that meta, and you can see how many like how many like metas have passed. But Hero Sword, like hitting that Mach Knight with the heroic entry and then being able to evolve was just like, man, that's a lot of damage. Like, how do I recover? But getting back into the set 7, so set 7 said that there was going to be a lot of Machina Abyss, and that's what they were talking about in the Grand Showdown. But Notora Sword ended up taking it in general, so I like that very much. So looking at set 8, looking at the set 8 little meta here, says that Puppet Forest is going to be very popular, right under with 2-cost Abyss, and then Machina Abyss, Disdain, and Ward. But I feel like people were rocking a whole bunch of Abyss, not set 7, but I think the set right before with Kuan, set 6. So Paragons, I think Kuan was like definitely projected to come out, but I think I might be hot taking when I say this, but I think that Kagemitsu, not Kagemitsu, what's her name? I drew a blank. Gensetsu was the big winner. I think Gensetsu was the biggest winner of set 6. So when I see Abyss here, I'm thinking, okay, maybe Abyss might be the pivot for set 8, but also at the same time, I think Puppet Forest might actually be the correct projection, but this is only a forecast. And if you watch the weather report at all, then it's not 100% true to happen. It's just only a percentage. But I think Puppet Forest will definitely be popular since it has Orcus and everything, and two cost being the Nepethys. I think Nepethys is the 2-cost, or I might be wrong with Crimson Rose Queen. Excuse me. Set 8 isn't out yet, so I'm still learning. But I'm glad that Machina Abyss is still going to be out, and I'm glad Disdain got some more support, and we have some Ward. Really am missing the fact that there's no sword and dragon. Oh, there's dragon, excuse me. No sword and no rune. But hopefully for this new set, we can probably crack Lashena. That's going to be my biggest goal, is to crack Lashena this set, since we have a 3-cost card that also heals and destroys a card. But outside of that, that's about everything we wanted to cover. So lastly, I want to say Happy New Year to everybody. It's been a wonderful January. I know the content was just a little slow at the beginning, but they had time off and stuff like that. Christmas and everything. Everybody was grinding. But thank you, Shadowverse Evolve. Thank you, Bushiro. Thank you, CardGames. Thank you, everyone who's playing the game. And thank you to you for watching the video and everybody who plays the game. I appreciate all of you. It's been a wonderful 2024, and I'm looking forward to 2025, where we're going to make lots of content and, hopefully see lots and more faces and stuff like that. Hopefully, we can get this podcast to be, multiple episodes, unlike the last one, because the first one was it was very fun. It was fun making that first episode of that podcast, but scheduling everybody is just very hard. I know everybody has their own lives and everybody has their own time, but I think it's very consistent if I do it just myself right now. And if, I find someone who has like the very same time slot as me and can, bounce back ideas just like I can, we'll get somebody else on the podcast and see where it goes. But outside of that, thank you everybody for watching. Happy New Year. It's a wonderful set 7 and I'm looking forward to set 8. We have tons of content coming out in the future, and I hope I will see you guys in the future. But be safe in whatever you do tonight, guys, and be safe whatever you do for the rest of the year. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next episode. Bye.
Yeah. TRINN. Just to get you away. What I got to do, what I got to do.